And I kind of wanted to start with some data. Let's just put the data, the nerd hat on. And so, I subscribe to Nielsen and Vivix, and I kind of downloaded, and they track $2 billion worth of advertising spend in the PI space. And I just wanted to share with you the top 4 and just to get your thoughts on that to start. So number 1, Spot TV is still at 800 million. It's the most spend for personal injury attorneys. Number 2 is Outdoor at 262 million. Number 3 is Google. Proud of my people. 190 million. And number 4, local radio, right under 180 million. And then there's this super odd outlier with Rubenstein. Yeah, we got you, Rubenstein, spending 96 million on a mobile app. What's your thoughts on those, on the big players? Any surprises there?
So I think if you look at the trend of television since lawyers started advertising on television, it's just been up and to the right. And so when I look at Kantar or Vivex or any of these things, what I'm kind of waiting to see is, when is the spend on television from a personal injury lawyer perspective actually going to decrease? And is the fact that it continues to go up and to the right indicative of it's working? Or is it indicative of it's the channel that used to work and lawyers continue to put more and more money into it? I think for us personally, we really dug into whether TV would make sense. Obviously, you wish you would have went on TV in 1990, 1995, 1997 when you were cleaning up. But, the reality is we just got the budget, in the last couple of years where that sort of an investment would make sense. And it's been really challenging to make a decision one way or the other on, hey, do you want to take a 7-figure budget and put it on TV? Because when you look at the actual media buyer, whether that's an agency or whoever else, when you look at the cost of production, which is like $40,000 or $80,000 to just make a commercial, and then you look at what you have to spend monthly on television to be in the top, 5 in a given market or top 7 in a given market, you're talking about a 7-figure commitment without any data to know, are the cases going to be a couple thousand? Are they going to be more than a couple thousand? Are they going to be, the highest cost per acquisition I have across any platform? Or is this a doable solution that's going to scale?
I think there's a lot to that. I can tell you from my perspective, I work with close to 120 PI firms, some of the biggest in the state. And what I hear from them almost every meeting is, we're not getting as much out of TV. Where can we invest? How can we do more on Google or other areas? Like, all the time. I've never heard, at least from my side, I've never heard like, oh, TV's crushing, we're going to go put another 20, 40%. I haven't heard it. I'm not saying that there aren't those circumstances. Maybe, you're targeting the boomers, you're hitting the Better Call Saul style on the nursing home cases. Like, maybe, but at least for me, it's just super surprising that so much money is still allocated there.
I think if you were somebody who got into television, I mean, you look at obviously the Morgan & Morgan spend, that's, 5x everybody else's advertising spend, maybe even more than that. And, when you look into somebody like that, who's been on television a long time, who knows their cost per case in a market like, that they've been in 10 years, or another lawyer that started advertising on television and was one of the first advertisers on television in that market, it probably makes sense for them to continue investing on television for as long as those cases are coming in at the same rate, right? Like, if it's working, I don't think there's any situation why you would say to stop. Now, I listened to a couple of podcast episodes ago where you had somebody on who said, hey, they saw their money spending on TV not going as far, meaning the monthly budget they were putting into TV was resulting in fewer and fewer cases. And if that's the case, or you're somebody who's never tried TV before, it makes it a lot harder to say, hey, I want to pull that lever.
Yeah, and I think that was Angel Reyes, and he's talking big spends, and I really, Angel, if you're listening, thank you for the transparency. I got a lot of compliments from that episode because you actually shared real numbers. Morgan's spending 110 to 120 million, according to this data on Spot TV, and the next highest law firm, there is a lead gen company in between, but the next highest law firm is Thomas J. Henry at 23 million. So you're pretty dead on. It's 5 to 6x what everyone else is. And still Thomas J. Henry's almost cranking out $2 million a month on spot TV, not talking about, syndication or other areas. It's just surprising to me because of how much the audience has declined, at least the younger individuals using apps and streaming and those other channels.
When you think about fundamentally what advertising is, right? Advertising is having people who don't know you, right? And there's different ways to get that sort of attention. Obviously, the way that it's worked with television in the past is you had tons of viewers. You were one of the first lawyers doing TV. You probably had the highest frequency. And then you use some creative concepts like standing on a truck or a jingle at the end of your commercial, or a sponsorship of a local sports team, some way to try to make your brand creative commercial stand out. And I think what becomes hard is when now at a commercial break, a lot of the other advertising categories have pulled their spend from TV. You're seeing multiple lawyer advertisements at the same commercial break. A lot of them are looking pretty similar. And the cost per view, like the CPM, the cost per impression, is getting higher and higher. It's not as appealing for getting your message out or getting your brand known as it might have been.
Yeah, I agree. And we've talked a lot about this, and I just went to Vegas not too long ago. And I don't watch regular TV unless it's like a sporting event, but here I am. I go to Vegas. I'm eating breakfast. I look at the TV. First, I get hit by a Morgan ad. Then I get hit by a Knockv ad. And I'm like, okay, well, they reached me, right? Like I normally don't watch it, but they got me. So as much as I say I watch streaming and all these other things, I still saw their ads when I was in Vegas.
Yeah. And look, if you're one of the biggest advertisers in a market, and this is where, we're seeing at Top Dog with some of the markets we're in, is like, you just want to be on everything, And that's where it's hard, is like, you want to reach folks that you're not reaching. So like for us, we're kind of coming at it from the other perspective where we're saying we're an Instagram organic brand, right? And so how do we then begin to reach consumers that aren't on Instagram? Well, billboards, radio, buses, maybe TV, right? That's a different audience, or folks that are not seeing us on their social media account. I think that most law firm owners who are listening come at it from the opposite perspective if they're advertisers, right? They traditionally came from billboards, radio, television, and now they're figuring out, how do I reach that younger audience that may not be consuming their content on those platforms? And I think trying to kind of solve that problem for the majority of personal injury law firms out there is the real needle mover, so that they can evolve their marketing strategy as the world around them is evolving.